My sister smashed my 6-year-old daughter's brand new bike with a hammer right in front of her. She called it a lesson, and my mom nodded in agreement, as if destroying a child's joy was somehow reasonable. I didn't scream, I didn't fight back. I just smiled and said one sentence, and their faces went pale. That moment changed everything. Now, I know it sounds unbelievable, and if I don't give you the full story, you might think I made it up. But every detail is real, and behind that single shocking scene lies years of family tension, jealousy, and betrayal. So before I reveal the exact words I spoke, let me take you back to how it all began. It was one of those rare, golden Saturdays in suburban America, the kind where the sun spills across the driveway, the laundry's folded, and the dishwasher's quiet for once. My 6-year-old daughter, Eliza, was practically glowing, her eyes wide with pride as she danced around her brand new bike, its bright paint gleaming like a promise of endless adventures. The streamers on the handlebars fluttered as she pointed out every detail, her voice bubbling with excitement. She'd been waiting for this moment all week, eager to show off her treasure to anyone who'd listen. I stood there, soaking in her joy, feeling like maybe, just maybe, I'd gotten this parenting thing right for a day. Then my mom and sister, Shayla, pulled up. Family visits are supposed to be warm, right? A chance to share coffee, laughs, and maybe a few old stories. But with my family, there's always an undercurrent, a subtle hum of tension we don't talk about, like static on a radio you can't quite tune out. Eliza, oblivious to the unspoken rules of our family politics, grabbed their hands, tugging them toward the bike like it was the main event at a county fair. "Look at my bike," she chirped, her voice so full of light it could have powered the neighborhood. I watched them follow her, expecting smiles, maybe a nod of approval. But then I saw it, Shayla's face. Her smile tightened, like she'd bitten into a lemon and was trying to play it off. Her jaw stiffened, her eyes narrowing as they locked onto the bike. It wasn't admiration. It was something sour, something I had seen too many times growing up. That look was a warning, a storm cloud rolling in on a clear day. I knew it from years of navigating her moods, from childhood moments when her tantrums somehow became my fault. Eliza, still beaming, didn't notice. She was too busy pointing out the sparkly paint, the perfect curve of the wheels. But I felt it, the air shifting, the weight of unspoken grudges settling in. Shayla didn't say a word, but her silence screamed trouble, and I braced myself for whatever came next. The air felt thick as my sister, Shayla, stormed into the house and returned clutching a hammer, her face twisted with a cold determination I hadn't seen since we were kids. Before I could process it, she raised the hammer and smashed it down on Eliza's new bike, the metal frame screaming under the blow. The sound was deafening, a crunch of paint and steel that echoed in my chest. Eliza gasped, her tiny hands flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief as the streamers she loved dangled limply from the wreckage. Another swing, and the wheel buckled, shards of bright paint scattering across the driveway like broken dreams. I stood frozen, my heart pounding like a drum, 1,000 alarms blaring in my mind. How could she do this? My 6-year-old, my baby, stood there trembling, her shoulders shaking as she stared at her ruined treasure, too stunned to cry. Shayla didn't flinch. She looked straight at Eliza, her voice chillingly calm, and said, "That should be a lesson for her." A lesson, as if shattering a child's joy with a hammer was some kind of teachable moment. I felt an icy wave crash over me, not rage, not yet, but a raw, piercing shock that pinned me in place. Then my mom chimed in, arms crossed, shaking her head like I'd brought this on myself. "You shouldn't have bought it for her," she said, her words slicing through the chaos like a verdict. The absurdity hit me. I was the villain for giving my daughter a bike. I wanted to laugh, to scream, to snatch the hammer from Shayla's hands and demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled, a tight, deliberate smile that felt sharper than any shout. Silence can cut deeper than words, and I let it hang heavy in the air. Shayla dropped the hammer with a clatter, looking smug, as if she'd just won some moral victory. My mom nodded, righteous as ever. They thought they'd put me in my place, but I was already forming the one sentence that would unravel their smugness, ready to turn their world upside down. The silence in the driveway was deafening, heavier than the clatter of the hammer Shayla had just dropped. My 6-year-old daughter, Eliza, stood frozen, her eyes locked on the mangled remains of what was supposed to be her bike. Its once shiny frame now a twisted heap of metal and shattered dreams. My sister's smug expression and my mom's righteous nod hung in the air like a bad verdict. They thought they'd won, that they'd taught us some twisted lesson. But I wasn't done. I looked at them, my smile steady, and said one sentence that drained the color from their faces. That bike wasn't for Eliza, it was for Brooklyn. Shayla blinked, her smugness faltering like a candle in a storm. No, it wasn't, she snapped, her voice sharp but unsteady, as if she sensed a trap. My mom's eyes darted between us, searching for a way to rewrite the moment. It was, I said, my voice calm but unyielding. I fought the manufacturer to replace Brooklyn's defective bike, and I got them to upgrade it to the one she's been dreaming about for months. The truth landed like a punch, and for a moment, the only sound was the soft ticking of cooling metal. Shayla's face went blotchy, her certainty crumbling. My mom clicked her tongue, a habit she leaned into before a lecture. Don't be dramatic, Catherine, she said, as if I'd staged this whole scene. I glanced at the wreckage. I'm not the one who brought a hammer to a kid's bike. This wasn't just about a bike, though. It never was. The roots of this moment stretched back decades, tangled in a family history where I was always the one walking on eggshells. Growing up, Shayla was the younger sister who came into the world screaming and never stopped. Every tantrum, every broken toy, every lost game somehow circled back to me. If she didn't get the doll she wanted, I was selfish for keeping mine. If she broke something in a fit, I was blamed for upsetting her. By the time I was 10, I'd mastered the art of tiptoeing around her moods. My mom's favorite line, "Don't upset your sister." It was laughable because Shayla could be upset by anything, a blue necklace instead of pink, a game she didn't win. Once, I saved up my allowance to buy her a cheap but thoughtful gift, a little necklace I thought she'd love. She snapped it in half because it wasn't the right color, and my mom turned to me with, "You knew she wanted pink. Why would you get blue?" That was my childhood. Shayla broke things, and I carried the blame. Fast forward to adulthood, and the pattern held. I worked my way through law school, built a career, and carved out a comfortable life for my family. I made more than the rest of them, enough to help with groceries, bills, or medical expenses when they came knocking. But helping people who resent you is a losing game. No matter how much I gave, it was never enough. Say no to an extra request. And I was suddenly the stingy, selfish one, flaunting my success. In their eyes, I was either a bank or a villain, no in between. So when Brooklyn's bike broke down, a clunky, worn-out thing that gave out during a ride, I didn't hesitate. Eliza tried to help, poking at the chain with her 6-year-old optimism, but it was beyond saving. Shayla, of course, pointed at my daughter and yelled, "She broke it." My mom backed her up, preaching about responsibility, as if Eliza had taken a sledgehammer to it. I didn't argue. I just said we'd take it home, let David look at it. Sometimes you pick your battles. Sometimes you wait for proof. That evening, David, ever the patient fixer, rolled the bike into the garage. After 10 minutes of tinkering, he looked up, shaking his head. This wasn't Eliza. It's a defect. Could have failed on anyone. He showed me the faulty part, a weak link that could have snapped mid-ride, maybe on a hill or a busy street. The thought made my stomach churn. I didn't waste time. I picked up the phone, called the manufacturer, and laid it out. A child's bike, dangerously defective, unacceptable. I might have thrown in words like liability and injury. Law school habits die hard. By morning, I had an email. They'd replace the bike, but I pushed harder. Brooklyn deserved better than a basic replacement, especially after the risk she'd faced. They agreed to an upgrade, the dream bike she'd been begging for, the one with all the bells and whistles. I smiled, imagining her face lighting up, picturing the moment Shayla would see I'd done something good for her daughter. Maybe I thought this could mend things. How wrong I was. In Shayla's mind, I'd bought that bike to rub success in her face, to let Eliza ride circles around Brooklyn's broken dreams. She saw cruelty in those sparkly streamers, humiliation in every shiny inch. That's why she swung the hammer, not to teach Eliza a lesson, but to punish me. Back in the driveway, I let the silence stretch, watching their confusion grow. Would you like me to pull up the emails? I asked, my voice still level. Or should I read them aloud right here? Shayla's accusation came fast. You're lying. You always lie when you're caught. I tilted my head. Caught doing what? Getting your kid the bike she wanted. My mom stepped in, ever the mediator for Shayla's chaos. Catherine, there's no need to humiliate your sister. I looked at the ruined bike. Humiliation? That's what you call smashing a child's joy on purpose. Eliza's small hand brushed the back of my leg, warm and trembling. I covered it with mine, shielding her without looking down. I couldn't let her see the storm in my eyes. Shayla's arms crossed tighter, her knuckles white. It was a moment, she sniffed, as if that excused everything. Kitchen crying is a moment, I shot back. This was a demolition. My mom snapped, watch your tone, as if words were the weapon here. I let the silence fall again, heavy and sharp. Then I said it, leave. Shayla laughed, a brittle sound. Leave what? My house, I said, and after that, my life. Their faces froze, like I'd just rewritten the rules of gravity. My mom's hand fluttered, grasping for control. We're family, she insisted. That word, I said, doesn't mean what you think it does. David, who'd been quiet until now, stepped onto the porch. His calm was like an anchor, steady and unshakable. Time to go, he said, not angry, just final. My mom tried to appeal to him. David, talk sense into your wife. He looked at her, wiping his hands on his jeans. I am. It was a door closing, not with a slam, but with the soft click of certainty. Shayla's eyes darted to the hallway, as if she could find an excuse hanging there. You can't do this, she said. I held her gaze. I just did. The driveway was quiet now, the echoes of the hammer long gone, but the weight of what happened lingered, like a storm that hadn't quite passed. Eliza's small hand was still warm against mine, her eyes searching the wreckage of her bike for something to make sense of it all. My sister Shayla and my mom had left, their footsteps fading down the street. But I knew this wasn't over. It never is with family like mine. I took a deep breath, feeling the air shift, sharper, cleaner, like the moment after you finally say enough is enough. That night, while Eliza slept, I made a choice. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but out of survival. I opened my phone, pulled up every account I'd been quietly funding, utilities, streaming services, groceries for my mom and Shayla, and one by one I removed my card. No fanfare, no dramatic announcement, just a few clicks in the dark. Done. It wasn't revenge. It was a boundary, a line drawn in the sand to protect my daughter and myself from a cycle that had gone on too long. By morning, my phone was buzzing like a beehive. Texts from my mom, then Shayla, then my mom again, each one more desperate than the last. We got a notice, your card's off the account. Why would you do this? One read, Another from Shayla, dripped with venom. This is petty. Put it back right now. I stared at the screen, watching their words pile up, each one a plea wrapped in blame. Funny how fast people go from righteous to begging when the safety net disappears. I didn't respond. I slid the phone face down on the counter, letting the buzz fade into the background. David caught my eye, his expression steady. You don't have to answer, he said, and I nodded. I knew. For the first time in years, I wasn't scrambling to fix their mess. I was letting them feel the weight of their own choices. But the real storm was yet to come. A few days later, a ping from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in months broke the quiet. Sorry about the drama. Hope you and Eliza are okay. Drama? Smashing a child's bike with a hammer wasn't drama. It was destruction. Then came the screenshots, forwarded from a family group chat that still held the ghosts of old reunion photos. Shayla and my mom had spun a tale so twisted it could have come with a carnival ticket. According to them, Eliza broke Brooklyn's bike. I refused to help, and then, get this, I cut them off financially out of spite. No mention of the hammer. No mention of the driveway. No mention of my mom nodding like a judge while Shayla swung. Their story painted me as the cold, selfish villain and Eliza as a spoiled brat, rewarded with a shiny new bike while Brooklyn suffered. The lies stung, not because they surprised me, but because they dragged my daughter into their narrative. That was a line I wouldn't let them cross. I could have ignored it. I wanted to. But when I saw relatives chiming in, thumbs up emojis, poor Brooklyn, Catherine's so cruel, something in me snapped. I wasn't going to let them rewrite history, not this time. I opened my security app, the one tied to the cameras we'd installed to catch package thieves. Turns out they caught something else. The whole ugly scene in crystal clear detail. Shayla marching out with a hammer. Eliza's gasp, the metal bending. My mom's voice blaming me in the background. It was all there, unedited, undeniable. I downloaded the clip, my hand steady, and posted it to the family chat with one sentence. For the record, that bike was meant for Brooklyn. Shayla destroyed it herself. No rant, no commentary, just the truth, raw and unfiltered. Then I put the phone down and waited. The chat exploded like a firework in a tin can. Aunts typed in all caps. Cousins slung WTF like it was a reflex, and the relatives who'd quietly bought the lies were forced to face the truth. It wasn't pretty. It was Shayla in sweatpants, wielding a hammer, and my mom enabling her. I should have felt vindicated, but instead I felt tired. Truth doesn't always bring applause. Sometimes it just makes people louder. Within an hour, my mom called, her voice tight with panic. Maybe Shayla overreacted, she started, but posting that video? You've ruined her reputation. I bit back a laugh. She ruined herself, Mom. I just pressed play. You don't humiliate family, she hissed. Funny, I said. That's exactly what she did to a 6-year-old with a hammer. The line went quiet, sharp enough to cut glass, and then she hung up. But the video didn't stay in the family chat. It spread like wildfire, friends of friends, neighbors, even landing on Facebook with a caption, "Who does this?" Someone who saw it was Shayla's husband, a man who always seemed too tired to care. He called me, his voice flat but heavy. Is it real? He asked. Yes, I said. It's real. He exhaled, long and slow, like he'd been holding his breath for years. Thank you, he said and hung up. The next thing I heard, he'd filed for divorce and custody of Brooklyn. For the first time, I felt a flicker of relief. Someone else finally saw it, finally said, "This isn't okay." Shayla and my mom kept calling, their tones shifting from righteous to desperate. You didn't have to post it, they said. You're tearing this family apart. Think of your niece. As if I hadn't been thinking of Brooklyn the whole time, fighting for her dream bike, only to watch Shayla smash it to pieces. That night, I sat on the edge of Eliza's bed, watching her sleep, her face soft and untroubled for the first time since the hammer fell. I let myself feel something new. Not rage, not exhaustion, but clarity. Mom, she'd asked earlier, her voice thin as paper. Did I do something wrong? I crouched down eye to eye and told her, no, baby, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes people are mad and still wrong. She nodded, her chin wobbling, and asked if we could still get ice cream. 2 scoops, I promised. 3 if you tell Dad which ones. A ghost of a smile crossed her face, and in that moment I knew I'd done the right thing. Cutting ties, posting the truth, drawing the line, it wasn't just for me. It was for her, for the little girl who deserved a world where joy isn't a target. As I sat on Eliza's bed that night, watching her sleep, her small chest rising and falling, I felt a clarity I hadn't known in years. The hammer, the smashed bike, the lies, they weren't just a moment. They were a mirror showing me what family shouldn't be. Family isn't a free pass to hurt, to demand, to destroy and expect loyalty in return. It's supposed to mean protection, love, a safe place to land. When it doesn't, you draw a line not out of anger, but for survival. Cutting ties with my mom and Shayla wasn't easy, but it was right for me, for Eliza, for the life we deserve. That broken bike taught me something. Boundaries aren't betrayal, they're strength. Maybe you faced a moment like this, where you had to choose between loyalty and what's right. What would you have done? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. If this story hit home, hit that subscribe button and join our community. We're here, sharing real stories, unpacking the messy, beautiful truth of life. Let's keep the conversation going, because sometimes the hardest lines we draw lead to the clearest paths forward.